Whether you're new to the channel or a returning viewer, a very happy new year to everybody. 2023 for me was the best year of boxing since 2017. Loads of good fights, divisions actually moving forward, fighters even being active. Who would have thought it, even in the heavyweight division? So things are certainly looking up. Of the fights that are already penciled in, of course, Tyson Fury against Alexander Usyk is one of them. If the boxing gods are really smiling on us, 2024 could be even better than 2023. Now, the mad rush you always get at the end of every year kind of stopped me doing some key videos, noticeably about the heavyweight landscape now and how it has changed quite significantly in the wake of Day of Reckoning. And I'm glad I put a little bit more faith in Anthony Joshua, who I did pick to beat Otto Wallin by 9th round stoppage. As it turned out, the fight didn't even make the 6th. And while AJ was noticeably improved, and I'll talk about that in just a moment, I was kind of surprised with how merciful the stoppage was. Whether it was Wallin who was giving off distress signals to his corner, they had a little chat. He'd taken some hard shots, but that certainly wasn't the charge I expected from him, tooth and nail, to try and tear victory away from Joshua. Of course, the other way to frame it is that Joshua was just so much better that he was basically painting a bit of a hopeless picture. Wallin wasn't able to get close to him near the end of the fight without copping some serious shots. Now, we saw an AJ here who wasn't thinking as much. He was doing more punching. Now, I had spoken in a previous video about how I don't always like the left-hand work from AJ. I don't think it's sophisticated enough. This time he was half extending the jab as a means of competing with Wallin's lead hand to get it out of the way, and then boom, in went a good long jab. Of course, being a big guy with a long reach, you're supposed to make use of those natural advantages. But AJ here was more dialed in. We had economic, well-balanced footwork. He was only moving just enough. It's always better, of course, to make an opponent miss by centimetres rather than inches. Then they're more out of position. Then they're closer to you for your own power shots. And this is what AJ was doing. He was trying to get Wallin to come forward, which of course he left him no choice but to try and come forward. He was thudding a very good right hand to the body, which Wallin later spoke about, that was disturbing him, which was painful. Come round 4 and 5, Wallin realises he needs to get in there to make some sort of impression on AJ, but just as he tries to, doubling up on the southpaw jab, looking for his own left hand, he just walks into some great shots. AJ completely reads him. Feet are planted, and in round 5 we saw that right hand left hook. What was most noticeable, though, about that was just how fluid it was. Now, Steve Bunce, boxing journalist over here in the UK, he said something about how they were the two most naturally thrown punches by AJ in a long time. And I agree, it had that instinctual response about it. He's punching, he's not thinking, the body is doing it all for him. Seeing how it was Joshua's 3rd fight in 9 months, it was a 3rd fight I thought we might not get, but I'm happy that we did. Looking at the fact Joseph Parker, in his 4th fight of the year, goes and beats Deontay Wilder, surprise, surprise, activity really benefits a fighter. We know in this day and age, there's been so many examples. People who lose or have a tough time is often linked to not being active enough, having not fought for a year or even more. You keep active, you keep improving, you can keep refining what you've been most recently working on, and we just saw that right then with Joshua. Of course, newly hired trainer Ben Davison probably has something to do with that. Whether or not this means Anthony Joshua is back, and I'm not even really sure what we mean here by back. Are we talking about maybe getting another belt? Are we talking about undisputed? Those two things are very different. He certainly looks better. Like Lennox Lewis, I'm still a little bit sceptical. For whatever reason, overly familiar sparring partner. Perhaps he couldn't get over the fact he'd already been a victim in the amateurs. Otto Wallin was not able to ask enough questions of AJ to satisfy the many questions we still have about him. Word on the street is that March 9th, is it? The proposed date for the now destroyed Joshua Wilder fight is going to be the one for Joshua to fight once more. And that is a good amount of time to just rest up, and it's not too long that any ring rust is going to accumulate. This is more like it, especially if you have designs on trying to go to the absolute top again. Ben Davison has mentioned how he'd love to try and avenge the Usyk losses for AJ if Usyk were to beat Fury and if those stars were to align again. Of course, from his perspective, it would be the absolute jewel in his crown as a trainer. But in the immediate future, I hear it's either going to be Hrgovic, which is great, could be Zhang, maybe even better. And of course, Zhang needs his shot now, being 40 plus, or Ngannou. And that is the one I'm not bothered about. It will put bums in seats. You've got the Fury comparison. As a promoter, there's loads of reasons to make that one. But man, I do not want it. It's just further confusing the division. Forgetting that IBF belt for a moment, out of Hrgovic or Zhang, which one would you prefer? And which fighter do you think poses the bigger risk to AJ?